Okay, this is Sakai Rubrics, and we're going to talk about what you can do in Sakai. We're going to be led today by me. I'm Corey Howard. I'm an instructional designer at the Office of E-Learning at West Liberty and a former teacher that taught computer science and social studies. I also have a call with Amanda, who was a former teacher and is an instructional designer who taught science and ed tech. And then we have Donna, who's also in our office, who can also answer questions. So if you want to find us, you can click these links. We will give you a link to the presentation and a link to this recorded video when we're done, probably later this afternoon. And so if you have any questions, you can definitely contact any of us and we're happy to help. So this section is interactive, so you will need another device. You can use another tab on your computer or your phone, and you need to be in Sakai and see some stuff. We're shooting for 1 hour or less. It'll probably be a little bit less than that. If you have any questions, you can either raise your hand and stop me as we go, or make comments in the chat, and Amanda and Donna can address those as we go along. And if there's something very specific that I didn't address today, or you need specific help, definitely make a ticket and we can help you one-on-one later. So the objectives for today's session is you're going to identify 3 benefits of using rubrics, what's in a good rubric, and how that structure looks like, the difference between numerical and analytical, and how you're going to build good rubrics in Sakai and attach them to assessment. So let's begin very quickly with rubric theory. So in this, picture. In this, there's a reason why you use rubrics. They are very clear and very specific about what you want students to do. These are the good examples of what students would do, going down to like 4 examples. So it makes it very easy to grade and be objective and consistent. So if you give a rubric to somebody that's very well laid out, multiple people who use it would come up with the same value if they were using all the same rubric. And because the way the rubrics are structured are just boxes, in Sakai, when you click on them, the math happens in the background, it calculates the score for you, and it sends it to the grade book. So it increases your grading time, being very, very efficient. Another picture. So the strong rubric has some very clear objectives, and so these are usually starting out with verbs. They're very specific tasks of what you want the students to be able to do after they've completed the activity. They're very closely related to your learning objectives for the model or the activity of the course. And if your rubric is structured very well and clear, then the students can self-grade themselves before they submit their work and come up with something that's very close to what you would do as an instructor, because it's very clear of what they're supposed to be turning in. Typically, rubrics use points, and there's a scale, and so in that chart format, there's typically 3 to 5 tasks of what you're asking students to do, such as your grammar is good, you have good punctuation, you have a clear thesis statement, some of those things are very specific. And then between the tasks, you have levels of performance, and these are called task levels. So you might name it, this is exceptional, or this is a target, this is mediocre, or acceptable, or poor, or inadequate. Those are typically the categories that we use for those task levels. So here's kind of what it looks like up and down and across. So a rubric would have categories of what you're looking for in the assignment. So these task categories for, say, something that's like an essay, you would have the ideas that were laid out, the writing is organized, there was good word choice, the mechanics of grammar, punctuation, spelling are great. Those are the things you're looking for. Then across are the values of how well the student accomplished that task. So it's easier to write the top level of criteria in the description of, there's no spelling errors, the punctuation is great, everything is perfect. And then work down to the lesser levels. So what I do as an instructional designer is I write the nice version of something, the perfect version I want a student to turn in, and then I change a few of the descriptors in that description. So you see in category 4, it said no errors in spelling. And I would go down a level, there's 1 to 3 errors, pretty good, but, they messed up a little bit. And then you get to more increasing errors, 4 to 5, or there's lots of errors in this paper with spelling and grammar. So it's easier to start at the top and work your way down by just changing a few of those words. And so before we go on, there's a difference in rubrics. Typically, most familiar is the numerical one, where you have a chart and you have numbers and they add up to the total score. This is the one that you'll have to use if you're using it in Sakai, because it needs the math in the background to work. But there is something called an analytical rubric, which is typically for like a performance. This would be something like you'd see on America's Got Talent or The Voice or something. They're looking for key things. You kind of met their expectations or you didn't. It doesn't really give you a score. It's just sort of a good, bad kind of evaluation. Those don't work in an LMS because it's looking for numbers to put in a grade book because there's math involved. So although you can use both in a course, if you're going to have a grade factored in, you'll need to use the numerical one. And so when you determine how many points a level should be, it's easy to keep it simple. If you have a range, you need to kind of think about what would be in that range. So if you have something 0 to 5, what would be a 1 versus a 4? So that it kind of gets harder to do a range when it gets bigger, because when you're writing those descriptors, it's harder to distinguish between the 1 and the 4 if that's all unsatisfactory versus what something would above standard. So if you keep the points range small, like 1 to 2, and the differences, it makes it very clear on what you're looking for in that criteria. And then the top one, and it doesn't matter which way you go, if you go left or right, so they're just preferences, and you can do both in Sakai, is you can either start on the left and work your way down, or you can start on the right and work your way down. And either one will work. The math will work in the background. But it's easiest to write the best version and work your way down to different levels. But it doesn't matter which left or right you're going to. So when we say proficient and exemplary, in theory, we want the students to use the perfect version stuff. So whatever word you're using is proficient or target or something like that is fine. And we have instructors that use adequate, proficient, target, similar verbs. But when you have those higher levels, that's the best one you want to have a student strive for. Because if you add up all the categories and the rows and all the top level performances, you're going to get total points in a numerical rubric. So that becomes your full possible points. So if you say someone in this example was skillful and they got 6 or 7 points, but they didn't get 8 or 10, over time that grade will not be as high as if they got the exceptional. So you want your students to strive for the highest in, and if you're considering those as bonus points, over time it'll look like the students were docked points. Even though they did okay, it will compound in the grade book if you're using the numerical rubric. So it's easier to keep your skill points very small ranges, and that your best version of something is going to be the top standard, because that's the goal we want students to strive for. So now let's get into building rubrics, now that you know how they're structured and how they're kind of doing math. In Sakai, rubrics are enabled for courses. And if they're not, you can go into the site info here, this button that looks like this, and turn on the rubrics tool. With the course, especially one that's been copied over, it can bring rubrics with it, and we have lots of templates available in our West Liberty Sakai instance for you to take and either use as they are or change them to meet your needs. So if you go into the rubrics tool, especially if you have an online course, there are some templates already there. And if you see the little pencil icon next to them, that means they are editable. So you can make them work for whatever the specific assignment that you have. When you build them, they save in your course. If you want to change them, but you haven't attached them to anything yet, it'll tell you when it's been last modified. You can see some of these actions about if you want to copy that one, but you want to change a few things to make it a similar rubric. You can also do that. If you see the locked sign right here, it means it's already attached to an assignment, so you can't change that rubric because it's in use. So what you could do is copy it and then use it for another one. So when you build a rubric, say you're building a new one or you're editing, you click the Rubrics tool or add, if you're creating a new one, the pencil icon gives you edit access. And so you'll need to give it a name because these rubrics can be changed and shared. So they do need a unique name for each one. And you can add a criterion. And so here's where you build the idea. Is it spelling? Is it grammar? Is it citation? Is it organization? Whatever it is the concept that you're going to be creating. And then you have the levels and you get to choose the points. You can build them in any order and rearrange the numbers on your box. So for example, I'm going to jump over here to an editable rubric. And if you click, I can change the name. And then this little arrow here will show you I can drag these around. So anywhere where there is the 3 lines, these are editable. I can drag them around. If I decided I want to, rearrange the order, I want to give them a name, you can. When you click the little pin icon here, I can change the description. And so I can either remove this or save it or edit it if I want to kind of change some of the words here. So in this example, the top level is astute and specific. The proficient is confident and clear. And then it gets cursory and then it's weak, so you have those levels. So if I wanted to build this, say, going to the right, you could. Instructor preference, it doesn't matter. And even if one row goes the other way and this one goes this way, the math will still work either way. If you have those rubrics and you want to change them, then you can do them right there. Now, you can copy a rubric or you can build your own. So any instructor with West Liberty Instructor Access can build a rubric and you can share. So typically some departments will have a rubric that's kind of consistent, especially like discussions or invitations where it's the same activity for students all the time, so they're just sharing the rubric among all the instructors in those courses. So if you have a rubric like this, where the description is in the criteria, you're kind of not we need to know what is acceptable versus developing, what was it looking for? Because if you have those very clear descriptions in those levels, then that is your feedback to the student. If you didn't get the full points, it's because you had this, this, or this. And so it saves the instructor's time because they don't need to make comments because the comments are this box, with what you did or didn't do. So if you have a big range, then can someone score 16 or can someone score an 8? So it gets harder to determine where they fall on the scale, 20, if we don't have things that are kind of very close together. So when we grade with rubrics, we have to attach them to an assignment. So when we go back here to the rubrics that we have, some have a lock, some have a pin. When they have the pin, you can edit. When it's locked, it's already attached to an assignment that's in the gradebook, so that's kind of being reserved in a way, and it can't be changed. Because in theory, you would change your grading scale for an assignment once it's already been put out there for students. So you could either copy this, or you could grab a new one and start with a new rubric to attach to an assignment. And down here, we have publicly available rubrics. So if you make a rubric that's good, or your department has one, and you want to take it and put it in your course, you can grab it from this depository that we have for West Liberty. Now, the caveat is these have not been reviewed, so some are good, some are not so good. But you can take them and tweak them for your own reasons. So you can sort them by alphabetical or reverse alphabetical. So if you find one that you like, if you click the copy icon here, it's going to put a copy up here in your course's rubrics. And then you can edit and rename and do whatever you need to attach it to an assignment. When you are attaching it to an assignment, you need to have it to something that's going to be gradable. So you create your assignment in Sakai, you give it a name, you have all the due dates and stuff like that. When you do your points, here's where you attach it. It will default to not using a rubric but then you need to click this dial here and then choose which rubric from that top list that you have in your course that you want to apply. And if you forget what that rubric was, because you have some that are kind of similar, if you click the preview button here, it'll pop up a little window of what that rubric actually is, so you can attach the correct one. And then if you want to send those grades to the grade book using the rubric, as you click on it when you grade, make sure this box is here, so it's doing the math and it will calculate it in the overall grade book. You can also attach to a forum. And so we have lots of templates for forum discussions in Sakai that you can grab, so you don't have to make one. When you create your forum in the discussions tool and you save it, you will go to the gradebook and you have to manually create an item, because discussions are a little bit different tool than the assignments tool. So when you manually create a gradebook item, you give the title, the same button here, it'll default to no rubric. You'll select the one with the rubric and you choose the one you have. There's a preview button if you forget and you want to add here. And then you need to create. And so now it's a placeholder that's waiting for points to come in for it to do the math. Once you have it in the gradebook, you have to go back to your discussion tool and make sure that it's a graded item. So when you go back to edit the discussion, when you scroll down and you're editing the discussion piece, there is a grading box here, and you'll get to select from all the items in the gradebook which one do you want it to attach to. So since you've named it Forum 2, you're going to be looking for Forum 2 in your drop-down menu here, and the rubric will already be attached to that gradebook folder. So now your rubric is attached to your discussion, and it's going to the gradebook to do math. And you'll have to repeat that process for each discussion because they were kind of manually graded items in the first place. Now, when you grade an assignment with a rubric, you have the assignment, the instructions for the student, it's going to the gradebook, there's a rubric attached, and now your students are submitting work. When you go into your assignment, and in the gradebook, you have your list of things that you've named, you will see a little icon here to indicate you've attached the rubric to that assignment. So that's kind of your notice that this one does have a rubric, and you can click on it to see it. When you click on it and you're going to grade the item. So here's a screenshot of, somebody wrote something and you're going to grade it. There's a tab here that says grading rubric. And so you can go through and click on the boxes as you read all the student responses in that discussion, and it's going to do the math for you, and it will show you what it's calculating each time you click, and it'll update each time you click a different box. And then it's going to hold the score until you do something with it. So typically, a lot of instructors will grade all of the discussion stuff or all the assignment stuff at one time and make sure they were kind of consistent on it before they release the grades to the students. Because if you're clicking through and you're using the rubric and grading and you realize you should have considered something else, you may want to change the scores, but then you would have to go over your grade. If you grade everything with the rubric for your course for that assignment and you're okay with it, then you would release all the grades to the students. Sometimes it's easier for instructors. And on your rubric, even though it's considered feedback because you have very clear written descriptors of, what's a target, what's okay, and what's bad, you can add a comment on that column there. If there was something extra you wanted to say, something feedback about this was really exceptional, this was above and beyond what I expected, or, if you wanted them to redo something and you gave them, a little comment that said, if you fix a few of these things, you could bump up to the next letter grade. If you did some of these things, let's resubmit this. You could add a comment like that and be sure you click this button if you're going to allow students to resubmit and get that better grade based on the feedback from the rubric and from your comments. Those are options for instructors. So with the forum, here's an example, a new forum post that somebody needed to read. And now you can see this grade button here. And then you can judge whether they were, moving the conversation along, they have some credibility, they gave citations if you wanted. And you can use the same comments about, the student may be really great at discussions, they've, built their argument, they have evidence, or they're not participating very well, or they want some more, content from the student to get the full grade level of the rubric. And then you would submit the grade. So when you have something that has a rubric score, where's the math going? So when in your gradebook, if you created these gradebook items and they have rubrics attached, so in this example, this form does have a rubric, this one does not. This one does because it has a rubric icon. When you've graded and you clicked all the boxes, the math is being held in the background, it's going to dump it into your gradebook. And so the total best points to have built on your rubric, say you had 10, 10, 10, so you have 30. That's the total score, the most possible points. That's what's going to factor in right here on your gradebook. So all the scores, when you click on the student, are going to have that running score. And if what you clicked, the student, got 1 out of 10 or out of the 9, and you had a comment about they could resubmit and do some extra stuff based on the feedback, they resubmitted it, now you graded it, they have a 6, it will update in your gradebook for you. So you can use this as a way to kind of push progress and make the students do better or retry something with very little instructor input. You're just clicking the boxes, giving some minor comments, and then the student can do it and resubmit. So it is kind of a structural strategy that you have an option to use. So that was kind of how we attached, we create rubrics, we attach them to assignments and forums in Sakai and how it works into the gradebook. If you want some more information about how to do some advanced Sakai stuff, we have some courses we can put you in or work self-paced. We have a learning development page. You can peruse on your own videos. If you have specific Sakai questions or you want help, you can always submit a ticket in Sakai. I would even bookmark this if you use it quite a bit. We can work with you on specific things in your rubrics or your courses if you need one-on-one help. And if you have screenshots, you have something you want to help with, those are helpful because then we can see what you see. Was there any questions in the feedback or the comments, Amanda? No? If you have any questions about rubrics or anything else, you can make a help ticket here, and we answer 365 days a year. And that's it. We'll send you this recording here shortly. And so, any questions? I'm going to stop recording, and then we'll send you a link here later today.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for attending.
Yeah, so I can't put my video on real quick. I did want to ask,
Okay.
this is probably a very specific issue that I've had, and I don't know if you've been on any of the tickets. I've been in the middle of creating or editing rubrics, and all of the rubrics in my course site have disappeared. And then I know Mary Lee helped one time, had to work with Longsight to get them back. Is that something that others have experienced, or is it maybe something I'm doing?
That's the only ticket I've ever seen where that happened.
And it's happened to me twice now.
Yeah, I don't know if it was something in that particular course.
Okay.
We did have to have Longsight do that because there was something deep in the code we've never seen before. We do have a kind of a glitch sometimes with rubrics where, especially on an import, if a course had a rubric attached to assignment or discussion, and then you import the content into the new shell, sometimes the instructor wants to edit the rubric, and they can't unattach that rubric. And even though you removed it from the discussion or the assignment, it still looks locked in the rubric tool. And so some glitch, it happens sometimes. We're working alongside, we can't figure out why. So in that case, we just have people make a copy of the rubric, do what they need to do, and attach it to the assignment, and just don't look at that old rubric that's hanging out there, because for whatever reason, it won't go away. But you can create a new one and attach it, and it works fine. Great. It's just something with that one import process sometimes. So it is a true glitch that when we roll out over to the new Sakai update within a year or so, I'm hoping it's fixed.
Okay. I mean, it's been recovered each time that I encountered that issue. It was just inconvenient at the time. So at the time I was like, oh crap, this is just create more work that I would do, but it was like, this would suck.
They're never gone. It's just the view is gone. So It's in the data somewhere of the course, it's just the view for the instructor disappeared for whatever reason. And that was the only ticket I've ever seen where that happened.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
that's why I was just curious if it was a me issue or if this was something that others had experienced. So
Yeah,
far, just a me issue.
just that one particular cell, something at that time. And alongside able to recover some of the data, sometimes like that.
It worked out. I was just curious if that was
Yeah.
something more common or not. So
Yeah.
it is not.
Yeah, that's it.
Awesome. Thank you very much. I appreciate
You're
your time.
welcome. And you have a good day, and we'll send this out later.
All right. Thanks. Bye.